I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this is Dog Years and Timestamps, a book club podcast.
Coffee's fueling this baby, dude. I'm on cup number 3.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. I love it.
You get up for work relatively early every day, right?
Oh, dude, Today was crazy early. I don't even know why, but this morning I woke up at 5, wide awake. And I was like, I'm not about to just go back to sleep.
Because that's always dangerous. Well, going back to sleep ends up being like 2.5 hours.
Dude, and I've been so bad about setting my alarms that like my alarm wasn't even set either. And I checked that and I was like, thank God I didn't go back to sleep. But I just I took a shower at like 5. Bailey went to sleep at like 5 for whatever reason. We like perfectly swapped. She already let the dogs out. I got to work super early. My order came in. I stayed till work pretty late though too. I don't know. It was weird. I've been up super early. Been drinking coffee all day, and it's like, for whatever reason, when I was young, I always said I couldn't feel caffeine, or I could never tell caffeine. It's probably just because I could never tell the amount of caffeine I was getting from like a Diet Coke. Because like a Diet Coke, I think, has like 70 grams. Super interesting conversation, by the way. But I think coffee has like 3 times that. So I definitely been like feeling the juice now.
I wonder if it also, how much did the scale energy caffeine gives you now, is that the same as the increase in energy that we got as kids? Because when we were kids, we already had shit tons of energy, right? So would it have been like,
you don't let kids have coffee because it'd be too much. It's like
if kids are already like at 80% energy, and then the coffee takes you to 100, like I guess you don't feel too much of a difference, assuming that we cap out at 100. You know, this is obviously not science.
Little kids go Super Saiyan on coffee. Probably
true. Maybe so.
That's why you let them climb trees and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But then now as adults, like I feel like I'm just always at 3%. So like a 77% decrease from when I was a kid. No, not like a 77% decrease, but a drop of 77%.
But you're like
would be the more proper way to say
night. You're a night owl, right? Like
I catch my second wind around like 11 o'clock, and then I'll be up. If I don't stop myself, I'll be up until like 6.
Oh,
easy.
So like if you can go to bed at 10, but if you're up past like 11, it's game over. You're pretty much you're beating Zelda.
I can force myself to go to sleep. Like I can get myself wound down, and then if I get in bed like 12:30, 1 o'clock, I'll be asleep by 2. But I can very easily, without effort, be up until 6 or 7. I think we've talked about this before.
Dude,
but
the sun goes down is fair game. I could be out at any given moment. Yeah. Like I have to be literally doing
That's
something.
Always been true. Remember the first time that I ever stayed at your house, or that you ever stayed at my house, whichever one it was, back in like 3rd grade when we became friends.
Dude, we watched Troy one time, and you stayed up and watched it with my mom because I was sleeping the whole time. Yeah. You just watched Troy with my mom.
It's like, Jordan falls asleep really easy. Yeah, that'd be interesting to. Right?
I made you watch. No, it was that White Noise.
Yeah, you totally did, and I already knew by then. I was like, okay, Jordan, you really want to watch this movie? Because you really wanted to watch it. And I was like, I don't want to watch it. It's scary. I don't like scary movies. Even then, I always knew I didn't like scary movies. And I was like, all right, man, you really obviously want to watch this movie, so we'll watch it. But because you need to stay awake. It's like 5 seconds in. Yeah, I was like, that fucker.
The white noise, it got me, that ambient noise, dude. It just knocked me out.
I just turned off the TV. I was like, I'm not watching it. Like, I think I didn't realize you had fallen asleep for maybe like 15, 20 minutes. And I probably woke you up a couple times. But like 45 minutes into the movie, I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna sleep.
When I'm out, it's impossible. But how was your week, man? When did you read? Were you like as busy as last week?
It's
still
been crazy busy. This week will be the first time in a while that I don't work 50 hours.
Oh, there you go.
So that's good.
Yeah. Do they spread it out like over how many days a week are you working? 5. Okay, well at least you get 2 off. That's nice.
Yeah.
But I mean those long days.
12 hour days? Long days. Give and take. Some days, like one day last week, I worked 13 hours.
Ooh.
So, and some days are shorter, some days are longer. It's just ended up being 200 hours over the last 4 weeks.
Dang, nice, dude.
Yeah.
And then
I'm a little burnt out, but the money's good. So.
The money's been good, yeah. Well, cool, dude. I mean, are people nicer over the holidays? Probably not, right? Like, I feel like everybody's a little bit...
I think some people are.
Oh, okay.
I think more people are here in Austin than in Corpus. Okay. Which just feeds into what I've been saying for a very long time now, that Corpus is just trash. I'm sorry, everybody lives in Corpus, but Corpus is just on the whole such trash.
Dude, it's literally dirty. Like, you drive over the Harbor Bridge and there's always garbage outside. Like, there's always garbage on the roads. It's literally
like on every median.
It's not even just like in the general term of like it's a trashy city because the people are trashy metaphor.
And not even just talking about like the smog in the air because of the industry. It's just like, there's just literal garbage literally everywhere, all over the city.
The coolest thing is the aquarium though, but now I feel guilty.
The aquarium is dope as fuck.
I feel guilty about aquariums now because that freaking Blackfish movie. Did you see that documentary? Blackfish
but those orcas are intelligent, and
so are dolphins.
Groupers aren't. Well, but the dolphins that they have at the Texas State Aquarium are all in rehabilitation, and they get let back out when they're done.
Not one of them. Not Shadow, I don't think.
That
one's got like a fucked up thing.
Yeah, he's so bad that he would just immediately die out there. Apparently,
he's like Nemo.
They say, we're just trusting the scientists.
Dude, I don't know. I feel like after they train him, they just like, we'll just send him to a different aquarium and say we set him free.
That's definitely a possibility. I think that there's got to be some organization that is like a third party, not government funded organization or something like that keeps that stuff accountable. So that if they were just lying, that PETA is such a fucking joke. They kill more animals than anybody else.
Oh, no way?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'll have to look that up. That sounds like a conspiracy that I need to know all about so that I can hit people with stats.
It's like everything else that ever existed, I was about to say in this country, but really in the world. Anytime that there's organization corruption is going to happen. And like maybe PETA started with like good intentions. I'm sure that it did. But then they got power and money, and they're like, oh, we don't want to lose power and money. We should keep doing things that give us more power and money.
Yeah.
And so then they just, it's whatever.
Dude, even just going vegetarian, like literally, if you support farming, you support mass slaughter of rats and rabbits and like ground nesting birds. Like, just, it's without fail. Like, there is no like murder-free way to eat anymore, just because like even farming, you act like they accidentally kill a lot of stuff. Like, it's just
constantly.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but
that's just the way that the world has literally always worked.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you're eating plants, but like they're still killing stuff. So like it's just I don't know.
And then it depends on where you live too and what resources you have available to. If you live in Austin, you're a vegetarian or a vegan, it's much easier to get locally grown and sourced food and stuff like that. But if you live in the middle of nowhere or a city that's large but doesn't have the populace, enough of a vegan or vegetarian populace as a city like Austin or anything like that, so that the supermarkets don't supply locally grown stuff, then you're buying from large mega corporations that are just almost literally killing small farmers that don't buy into the mega corporation. So now you're just hurting people trying to make an honest living all the same. So like, no matter what you do, you're fucking something.
Oh yeah, and it's
there's no way around it.
It's so hard to always buy, like, to even know you're buying the right thing. Like, to know, because I don't know, you don't want to have like guilty conscience buying lettuce, so you try to buy like the good lettuce. But because
everything like leads back to Monsanto, and they're just like literally probably like the most evil corporation in the world.
And then you talk to Monsanto, and that guy actually sounded kind of nice when I saw him in a documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy seemed okay. And he seemed like he really believed he was doing good stuff. Like, I'm sure some of Monsanto, I'm sure it's not all evil.
Yeah,
because that guy seemed pretty cool, but I know a lot of it is evil because they like patented a lot of like seeds and stuff, so farmers couldn't even use that seed.
Yeah. But then what happens in the natural world, wind takes the seeds off of plants to other locations so that the plant can continue to grow. So then the seed gets into the farmer's crop that doesn't have the contract with Monsanto, and then Monsanto sues them for stealing their product because the wind did it.
Well, don't steal seeds, bro.
Fair enough. Build walls tall enough to block the wind.
True. Fun fact: mesquite traveled through from the south, like, so mesquite was natural and naturally occurring in like Mexico and like super South Central America and stuff, and it came all the way up here because of cowboys. The cows would eat mesquite beans and then they would poop, and then little mesquite shrubs would
I
grow
feel like I've heard
along
that
the cow
before.
trail. Yeah, and then so like all along the years and years, the cowboys running cattle up north, the mesquite tree has grown and like been spread that way because it's such a sturdy seed that it can make it through all 4 freaking stomachs of a cow and still come out and then it's in basically perfect soil to grow. You know, like perfect. Let's talk about the book, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've really gone on a journey there.
I read it super
talked
last
about, like,
minute.
3 or 4 different
dude.
things.
I read it so last minute, but I read it so many times today that it was just awesome. And I read a little bit.
Yeah, I was
much.
super late as well.
Yeah, I accidentally overread a little bit, but re-listened again and didn't overread like the last 2 times. I like, you know, I was going time.
So you've got the image.
So like, I know where to stop, like what not to say. So,
right.
But dude, I don't want to stop reading this book. It's so good, and it's making me want to like pick up another Stephen King book on the side. Just like when we start reading our next book, I might just have a King on the side.
When we were reading Neverwhere and then Beacon 23, I was thinking, because I hadn't read in a really long time. I had like totally fallen out of the habit. I used to read a lot, so I fell out of reading, and then I started reading, and I was like, God, reading is so good. Why did I ever fall out of this habit? And these books are really good, and I was like, man, we're gonna read like a really fucking good book, and it's gonna make me want to read other books, and then I'm gonna be reading like 4 books at a time. It's gonna ruin the podcast.
We'll just have to be faster. Once we start reading more books, we'll throw out little side episodes where we can be like, we both just read.
Oh yeah, once we like super nail down this process, then we can just like record 2 episodes a night.
Oh yeah, dude, this will be, and dude, we could even, if we started doing that, we could do 2 a week. That would be fun.
Well, I guess let's go ahead and get started.
For sure, man. Yeah, I'm ready. So Ben 4, chapter 11.
Chapter 11. We're gonna finish part 2 today. Starts with Ben and Susan meeting in Matt Burke's hospital room. They're gonna talk about everything.
Yeah, dude, the hospital has been an important location. Like, a lot of shit goes down in the hospital.
Minute now, yeah.
Like, Matt hasn't
And for
left.
another hot minute after that.
Yeah, he stays there, dude. Like, that
he's
heart
like
attack
bedridden.
got him. Well, I mean, I guess
it's only been a day at this point.
It really has only been a day. It's been weeks for us, so it's like, damn, Matt, you're still in the hospital?
Right. Yeah, I guess it's only been a day. They need to keep him for a while. Ben notices that Matt looks good. Matt says that Dr. Cody called it a minor league heart attack, no clot formation.
Yeah, no clots, and I don't know. I don't think they tested for bite marks or anything, but he was all clear. Like, no, he didn't get bitten or anything. He was just spooked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they sit down, and Matt tells Ben the story of Mike Ryerson returning to his house. You know what caused the heart attack.
Yeah.
And then they spend time saying what they each think about everything that's happened, and go through Ben's sort of logic progression. That's really all
they're really just solidifying, like,
they're like all catching up, because at this point, we each know what each of them knows, which is everything for us, but none of the 3 of them are all on a different page, so they're all just getting on the same page. Susan's still skeptical, but only because...
Why?
Well, because she
hasn't seen it, literally.
She hasn't seen anything. Okay, the only thing that she's heard Mike Ryerson say, "I'll see you sleep like the dead, teacher."
Yeah.
And then Matt have his heart attack, but she hasn't seen anything yet.
Yeah, I guess she hasn't literally seen anything, but dude...
She has all the clues without any proof yet.
I guess it's fair to say... I mean, it's fair to stay skeptical. I mean, if I had all the clues, I would not believe in a vampire. I mean, you know...
Yeah, if you came into the door right now and said, "Yo, I just saw a vampire," would probably be as skeptical as Susan.
And then if you had a fake scene where you had a record, like I would totally I guess I can never mind.
I think I'm probably more ready to believe than she is. I'm not as ready as Ben is, but dude, Ben is but he's also already had a supernatural experience as a kid, so he's already primed for jumping in. Whereas I've never had any sort of supernatural experience, so.
And I think I have, man, because I was driving one time and I saw this. It was this green light that was just floating out in the distance.
You've told me about this,
dude, it was floating there. I kept driving. It was staying in that same spot. Like, I was watching. I looked around. They were like, no. It was like, I don't know. It wasn't it was way too high for any building to be over there. And it was way too far away and for how big it was. And then, out of nowhere, it just shoots straight to the ground. And that was it. I thought, like... I don't know why any alien would want to come to Earth. I mean, it's so dirty out there. We got so many satellites and shit we threw out in our atmosphere. It's probably
maybe their shit's worse.
Maybe, yes. That's probably true. It's like, this is pretty clean compared to our atmosphere.
Right. I feel like that's an angle that very rarely gets explored.
Yeah.
Like, why would all the alien stuff has to be awesome. Like, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it sucks.
Yeah. Oh, this Earth is nice.
If they're anything like us, they've fucked it up times a million because they've had more time to gain space travel.
They even kind of joke about it potentially being like an alien in this, in this little scene, I think. At least at some point, I remember somebody kind of jokes about like it could be supernatural, like an alien or something. But anyway, basically, they say like, we're pretty sure we're going to proceed as though it is a vampire. Whether we believe it or not, we're going to proceed as such, and then we're going to go talk to Cody, who is the doctor.
Dr. James
Cody.
Jimmy Cody.
2 first names. As Campos would say, you can't trust someone with 2 first names.
He does say that all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. Ace has 3 first names, too, so you really shouldn't trust. But anyway, yeah, so they're going to go tell Cody, and if he doesn't commit them to the insane asylum, they joke around.
They're planning their next move. Matt is going to stay in the hospital because he's got no choice but to stay in the hospital and do as much research on vampires as possible. He's going to read, he says that he's literally going to read every single book that's in the library on the subject or vaguely close to the subject, because what else can he do at this point?
Yeah, pre-Google.
While Ben and Susan are going to tell Jimmy Cody everything and ask to have Danny Glick's body exhumed. And then they're also going to go approach Father Callahan. The Catholic priest.
Yeah, who we know. Yeah, I guess just really only...
we only know that
only Matt. No, Matt, nobody really knows him. No, because I think Ben even asked, like, do you know Father Callahan? He's like, no, not really.
Matt doesn't go to church.
Oh, yeah, he's an atheist. So they go to...
So
they leave?
Yeah, kind of at that moment, Jimmy Cody comes in to examine Matt on his rounds for the day. Mm-hmm. And so Ben tells him, hey, I want to talk to you for a little bit whenever you have time. And Jimmy says, well, I'll just see you last on my rounds for the day, and then we can take that time to talk afterwards. Ben and Susan go back to Ben's room, and then at the end of his rounds, Jimmy goes to see Ben last, does his last examination, discharges Ben, says he's fine, he doesn't have like the concussion, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, he's in good mental health, sane.
And so then they start talking. Ben and Susan, I think they ask him what he thinks about everything that's been happening. Yeah. And then he says, oh, you mean Floyd and Randy? Or something like that.
Have you noticed anything weird going on in town? Like, seriously?
And yeah, he says, oh, like what happened at the morgue or something like that. And then they're like, what do you mean what happened at the morgue? And Jimmy says, oh, Floyd Tippett's and Randy McDougal's bodies are missing. And that's news to Ben and Susan. Yeah. So then, and they like look at each other and they're like it's all adding up even more now. And he's like, what? And
what's adding up?
Right. And so then they're like, well, and then they begin their story.
Yeah.
So it cuts to them finishing the story.
It was 10 past noon when they had finished telling everything.
Vampires, Jimmy Cody said then. Matt Burke, of all people. That makes it awfully hard to laugh off. Jimmy believes everyone enough to humor the exhuming request. His idea is that he'll tell the county medical examiner that he suspects encephalitis is running through the town and causing the recent deaths.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what it is either. I didn't bother to look it up.
I just said SARS or something. I think this body has SARS, and I would like to... No, I wouldn't say SARS. They wouldn't let me examine him. Yeah, dude, but Dr. Cody, joins the group.
He didn't go to school and get his PhD.
Yeah, just to be called Jimmy.
For you to call him Jimmy.
Yeah, we're not even friends, so I don't know why I did that. But I mean, Dr. Cody, he buys it pretty quick just because of he trusts who he's getting the information from, and all the evidence too is kind of pointing to this is really weird. Why would these things happen? Who would steal bodies?
I think earlier whenever Ben and Susan and Matt are talking, and Ben says that he says I want to talk to Dr. Cody about it, blah blah blah. Susan asked Matt, "Do you think that he would believe it?" And Matt says, "The Jimmy I taught in school would in a second." Yeah, who knows what elitist school he went to and what they put in his head, but so I guess that was an easy way for King to prime us and accept that Jimmy Cody would let's do it.
The doctor's gonna buy it.
Yeah, his teacher said that in freshman year he would have totally been about it, so that's good enough
we're
reason.
Good. Yeah, we can try.
It makes it easier for us to buy in. So yeah,
it's good to have a doctor on your team, though. You got to have a
healer. They're really building up a nice little team here. Yeah, Jimmy says, yeah. Well, he doesn't say yeah. He says,
I'll join your party.
In the same way that everybody has kind of believed each other, is none of them think that anybody else is crazy.
Yeah, so they really just want to get to the bottom of it.
They believe that they believe, so they're like, well, let me help you figure this out, that sort of thing. Jimmy says, before any of that, you and I are going to go talk to the Glicks and ask them for their... We don't have to, but let's ask them for their permission to exhume their son. Because if we don't, it could potentially be a problem later.
Yeah.
Jimmy and Ben go off to the Glick house to do so. When they get there, nobody answers. And so they go across the street. Pauline Dickens' house.
Freaking Pauline.
We know about her in passing. She owns and runs the excellent cafe in town where like Parkins Gillespie has gotten coffee, and there's just like a little diner or whatever. So we've heard her name in passing.
Yeah.
They go to, it's her house. They talk to her about the Glicks. Pauline says, "Oh, didn't you know Marjorie died this morning?" And they took Tony, was his name, the husband. They took Tony to Maine General. Yeah. To Maine General Hospital in Portland.
I would go crazy too, though, if like everyone around me was dying. Right. But also,
literally everybody in his family is now dead.
He's probably a vampire, so
yeah.
Like, you know, like if the kid
he's at a
got
major hospital
if
now.
If the kid got the mom's gonna get the husband, you know, or they got.
Well, she hasn't turned yet.
I know, but when did the kid turn? Like. You know, like it's not that hard to like sneak in.
Well, I guess
like,
we can go over.
Who they target too.
We can go
like,
over timelines after we get through it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because there's definitely a lot to figure out.
Oh yeah,
there's pieces that we need to put together.
Yeah, and they target family like first, basically, because it's like they'll trust me.
It's the easiest thing.
It's the easiest, yeah.
Jimmy is stunned.
Yeah.
The book describes him as looks like a man that just had his stomach kicked or something like that. Because he's like, shh, you like fuck everything that they told me. Thinking maybe Danny's a vampire. Now his mother's dead and his father's gone, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's just like everything is adding up too much for even him now. So they find out where Marjorie's body was taken, and she was taken to some other funeral home owned by a Jewish man up in Cumberland.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows where Carl Foreman is. We know that Carl Foreman was there when when Mike Ryerson came back. Mm-hmm. So we know that he's either dead, ran away, and is missing, or a vampire. Likely a vampire. Because like we've also discussed, they're trying to build up a coven is the easiest assumption. So they're going to just grab everybody that they can.
It seems like they're definitely like, we're going to take over
If they'll
the
take
earth.
Dud the Dump Man, they'll take a likely able-bodied mortician.
It seems like it makes them, they'll definitely take a normal, yeah. It seems like also, too, like, when they get bitten, it seems like they become perfect. Like, it always talks about how, like, they look prettier than they were before. Like, any of their, like, markings or whatever was gone. So, like, they probably, it's like Hunchback strength is probably, like, tripled. Right. You know? Like, he's probably the perfect vampire henchman.
In a way
he's the warrior.
At least, in one of the, as infamously bad as the books and movies are, something that I felt like the Twilight series did really well was like for one paragraph where Edward describes how being a vampire makes you the perfect hunter. Like everything about you become super handsome or beautiful, you become super strong. They get like a quirk or whatever, but you get like all these other, and it's also given in traditional vampire lore that they get like some sort of psychic ability, or what we would describe as psychic ability.
Yeah, something to glamour them to make. Yeah,
the whole point is for them to they're the apex predator.
Yeah, that was a really cool. No, that's
like the one thing they did right in that book.
Yeah, it talks about it a little bit here too, but I think it more just alludes to them being like the apex predator.
And that is generally how all vampire stories go.
Well, there's also like an ominous evil that's always there. Like here,
sometimes there's more or less evil given the story. There's definitely this is just pure evil.
Yeah, happening. It seems like some things too are like because obviously Stryker is not a vampire, but there's just like an aura of evil around him and like an aura of immortality kind
Stryker of he's who I would be. A vampire would just approach me. No, they don't have to turn me into a vampire, and I would just do what they wanted them to do.
You want me to yeah.
Oh, you want me
You're
to
going to give me
things?
some powers though, right? Like I get some kind of
I would be the idiot that just gets strung along.
You get to drink their blood.
Right, I get to think I'm a vampire. I'm just useless. I'm not good enough to be a vampire, but I'm good enough to be like able to help them out.
You're trying to get them to turn you.
Right.
Like, are you going to turn me yet? No, these vampires suck though. I would hate to be one of these. Like King does a great job of making vampires, in my opinion, in this series seem awful because they don't seem to have any free will. They seem to be driven to fucking turn and eat more people, which if I was a vampire, that would not be the point. The point.
Well, it's a more classic, and let's talk about this at the end.
Yeah, okay. He convinces.
So they go
Jimmy,
to yeah.
So they go to. Or sorry.
They it immediately then cuts to them on the drive to Maury Green's funeral home. The Jewish man up in Cumberland who owns the funeral home that Pauline Dickens pointed them towards. Jimmy apparently knows Maury. He saved his son 9 years ago at the lake. While they're driving there, Ben and Jimmy are kind of individually speculating on the relative ease with which a vampire colony could begin in a town like Jerusalem's Lot. How much has already happened that hasn't been noticed? How many have already turned?
Yeah, and they're. It seems like they're going quick too. Like we've already said before, like they're in.
Yeah, we already know that there's like 1 million right now. We already know that there's like we've got like 4 named people that we know, a couple that we assume that wasn't explicitly given that Carl Foreman's a vampire, wasn't explicitly given that Tony Glick is a vampire.
Right.
But it's a pretty easy assumption.
Yeah. Yeah, just based on like how quickly everybody seems to be like Danny, like we know he became a vampire and he was buried, like I don't know, just.
And then we don't know everybody that's in the town, so what non-character was turned before any character that we know was turned.
Probably Barlow doesn't have to be the only one that can turn people too. Like once you get infected, or like once you're
certainly
a vampire,
not once he's gotten
Yeah, I bet anybody else that they.
I think we can assume that Danny turned his mom.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't have to be Barlow that turns you. So
exactly,
like,
yeah.
It spreads like wild.
They arrive at the funeral home. Jimmy ends up calling in the favor. He doesn't say, "Hey, I saved your son 9 years ago," but he says, I have a favor that I want to ask," knowing that Maury's going to agree.
Good thing he had a buddy there too, because it sounds a little like necrophilia-y. Like, hey, do you mind if I have the key to this funeral home, like, so I can watch this dead body tonight by myself? Like,
right. It can definitely be taken the wrong way by any given person.
I mean, we obviously know he's staying to watch to see if she wakes up.
So he gets Maury to agree to it, and they end up they're waiting for whatever to happen. Now jump to Susan, decides that she's going to go to the Marston house.
Yeah, she goes rogue.
And she's had enough of waiting around. She can't, and she's still wanting everything to not be true. Mm-hmm. So she's like, well, I'm just going to go up there. I'm going to talk to them, and all this is going to be over with. We can move on.
She still has some doubt, though, because she takes a piece
on the way. She ends up purchasing a crucifix at like a corner store.
Yeah.
And then also on the way, she pulls over and goes out into a field and picks up a snow fence picket. And she's like, well, this will be a stake.
Yeah, this will be the stake just in case, yeah.
And she kind of seems to just be doing it absentmindedly because I think it describes her as saying, like, I don't know that I could even use this if I had to.
Yeah.
What would I use it
So I don't really know what she's doing. Like, is she just trying to...
Because I guess she's got the seed of doubt in her mind where she's like, maybe this is all true and I should just be careful. Let me buy this thing. Let me get this stake. I don't know why I'm doing this. I think it's going to be fine. But she's got the seed of doubt already.
Yeah, I mean...
And then as she gets closer, she gets more and more doubtful.
she even talks about it, too, how, like... how she watches like the scary movies and she thinks about like the girl character in the movie doing that thing and she's like, what an idiot, like why would you ever do that? And she's like, I think she calls her stupid.
She's like, oh, stupid bitch, I would never do that.
And sitting there comfortable, and she's like, and now I'm the one doing it.
Yeah.
And so
and she gets scared and scared as she gets closer, and then scared enough that she almost abandons the idea of just talking to them. Mm-hmm. She parks her car away from the house, like far down the road, and decides to walk through the woods.
Yeah, and she
sneak up on the house.
Yeah, she ends up sneaking up on him, and like I don't know at what point she realizes she does not want to get caught, but definitely when Straker like starts his car, she like goes prone, like drops, like he didn't see me,
Yeah, she's like creeping through the woods, and then there's a point where the woods are not as thick anymore, so it's not easy to be hidden. And then she comes up like on a bush that's like the last real hiding spot before the house lawn or whatever, and that's where she hears the car start and it take off down the road, presumably to town.
Yeah.
It's at this time that she feels a hand on her shoulder, and then we cut.
Back to Ben and Jimmy. Yeah, it's good writing.
Classic. Ben and Jimmy are waiting for sundown in Maury Green's mortuary. Jimmy was able to arrange for them to see Marjorie Glick's corpse and for Maury to not be present. They're sort of talking about whatever it is that's going on. Jimmy comments that Marjorie's condition is very similar to Mike Ryerson's from what he has seen.
He does examine her body a little bit, right?
Yeah, just very like kind of surface level examination. I don't remember the exact phrasing that he uses, but he talks about like the tension of the skin being, not like a dead person's and things like that. Mm-hmm. The same thing that's been described about everybody, how nobody looks like they're dead.
Yeah.
They cobble together a cross from 2 tongue depressors in Jimmy's bag, and then they bless the cross with the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah, and it's kind of just like it's not like really the Lord's Prayer, it's like just... I think the point was
that he starts not knowing what he like starts like a general prayer, but then without realizing he falls into the Lord's Prayer.
And I think too it probably has a lot to do with like their intent and their like their intent behind it, because then Jimmy joins in with him and they end up saying the Lord's Prayer together, and like the cross or what, like the cross that they
start putting it together because they're already feeling like something's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, like there's an ominous
like it's already like cold and heavy,
dark
and like
nighttime. Yeah,
even Jimmy's like, can't you feel it? Like this is fucked up.
Yeah, we need something. Yeah,
and as they finish the prayer, or as they're coming close to finishing the prayer and then finishing the prayer, Marjorie Glick comes back. She sits up, the sheet falls off of her as they finish. And then she says, "Danny, where are you, darling?" Because she's still obsessed with finding Danny.
Oh yeah, and now she's a vampire, so she'll find him eventually. Right. But,
she like stands up and then sees them, and they have a fight. There's a big fight where first the cross is glowing. They're like, "Oh shit!" Like this is gonna work, and Ben like holds it up to her, right, and is like forcing her back, and then Jimmy kind of like goes around behind her to try and grab her, and she's like, "Nah, dude," just throws her.
Yeah, just because. Yeah, I mean, Ben is holding the cross.
Yeah, he's the one holding it, and
he's keeping her back. And
Jimmy, like, because she's totally focused on the cross, Jimmy goes around her to try and like subdue her, or, like grab her.
Yeah, so that they can like stake her.
And, but they don't know that the vampires have crazy strength, so she just throws him.
Yeah, this is their first. This is their test drive with a vampire.
This is both of their first interaction with one.
And he gets wounded, but I think how did they scare her off again? I forgot. They yell that. Yeah,
she throws him like into a corner and then dives after him and bites him.
Right.
At this time, Ben goes over and tries to like tear her off of him. Mm-hmm. So she then turns on him and he's got her attention, and then he takes the cross and stabs it up into her jaw.
Nice.
And then she like
obviously showing that it's stronger than
it works.
Well, also too, it's imbued with holy power because it's literally tongue depressors that they glued together, right? Like it's weak.
It's literally just the shape of a cross, and then they blessed it.
And it went, if it did damage and didn't snap, like balsa wood would snap. Then I mean, I know that's stupid to say like that, but it shows that it's
there's a couple of sentences where like he tries something else, like he like hits her or something like that.
Yeah, I think
it does nothing, but then whenever he thinks, okay, well, I'll use the cross, and he stabs it up into her jaw, it just sinks in like nothing. It's just like, going into butter.
Hot knife.
So it pretty evidently has all the power that we would expect it to. And so then at this, she like screams and like steps back, and then she starts fading into the air. So which is something that's already been described, I think, twice at this point, but very lightly. Whenever Mike Ryerson comes back and visits Matt, and then Matt tells him to go away, Mike Ryerson like jumps out of the window backwards.
Oh, like he got banished or whatever. Yeah.
But he like sees his body jump out of the window backwards, and then whenever he runs up to the window to see, he thinks he sees like a shimmering or something like that. And then whenever Danny visits Mark for the first time and Mark banishes him, there's I think it more clearly, like Mark sees more of Danny vanishing than Matt saw of Mike vanishing.
Yeah.
And then here we get an explicit thing that she fades away into the atmosphere or whatever and then disappears. As she's disappearing, she says, "Even now one laughs. Even now your circle is smaller." So something's happened elsewhere.
But that's so cool too, because she's definitely not dead.
Yeah, she's definitely not dead.
It's like, that's not enough to kill a vampire. Slapping her with a cross, that didn't do
If it's the old rules, which everything so far seems to be like it's just the old rules, the only way to do it is to stab a stake through the heart.
Yeah, it might then.
That's the only
who knows if
final
that's even
death.
enough, you know?
Yeah, that might be like the turn at the end, is that you need to do more than that.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, so
Marjorie's
she's gone, and they're freaking out because one of their boys got bit.
Yeah.
Well, there are two of them, so Jimmy got bit.
Jimmy's shouting for Ben to get in his bag. Ben gets in his medical bag that he had brought with him, Jimmy fishes out a bottle of disinfectant that he's got. What who knows what it is? It's
just
just
like
alcohol
alcohol
or what? It's some sort of. I think it just literally calls it a bottle of disinfectant in the book.
Yeah, you'd think hydrogen peroxide would be good. It'd bubble that shit out.
Right.
Anyway,
he pours the whole thing over the wound. Yeah.
In Purell.
He pulls out of his bag like a vial of something. It's whatever anti-tetanus medicine is.
Yeah, he gives himself a tetanus shot. I thought it was kind of funny because the only thing I think of tetanus for is rust, but Will was explaining that tetanus shots.
It's a blood infection that you get from rust. So.
Right, so it kind of makes sense.
You've got the right connection.
It makes sense for him to kind of instinctively go for the thing that would help cure an infection in his blood.
We can assume that in preparation for this trip, because originally they were going to go see Danny's body and see what it did at sundown. But then they changed plans to go check out Marjorie's body and see what it did at sundown.
Good thing he even brought a medical kit.
He obviously and assumedly before it was obvious, he prepared for whatever thing might happen, may or may not happen. And so, what do you think? Not that we're doctors and we can follow his train of thought, but what would you think if you were like, well, what would I use to fight a vampire infection if I think of it as an infection? I would disinfect the wound and then take some sort of anti-blood infection medicine. What do I have? Tetanus?
Bullet.
That'll
That's
work.
the only thing I could think of. I would never have thought tetanus, but I'm not a doctor or smart enough to think of that. I would have just been like, shit, I'm a vampire now. Like, get away from me. That's basically what I would have done.
I would totally
get
just
away
be a
from
vampire.
me, go away. Like, I don't want to eat you, but I definitely will eat you. So go.
After the disinfectant and the tetanus shot, he then tells Ben to put the cross on him to see if it does anything.
Oh, yeah, that's the final.
Put the cross on me, he said. If I'm still dirty from her, it'll do something to me. Will it? I'm sure it will. When you were going after her, I looked up and I wanted to go after you. God help me, I did. And I looked at that cross, and my belly wanted to heave up. So then Ben puts the cross on him, and nothing happens. So Jimmy passes the cross test. So
yeah, you pass the cross test, you're good.
It's just like if you get bit by a zombie and you cut off that part of your body quick enough, you're safe.
Yeah, there's... Yeah, they figured it out. Tetanus shot and a lot.
Or at the very least, it seems to work for now.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens later.
That's awesome though. They got a doctor on their team, and then he just like improvises a curative vampire.
This does seem to be like a hard fix though, because in this discussion, we find out that immediately Jimmy is feeling the effects of being turned into a vampire. The cross affects him mentally. He wants to attack Ben, and then he does that stuff, and now the cross has no effect on him.
Which is weird, because Mike Ryerson or whatever, he was fucking groggy. So... I mean, I guess he didn't run into anybody, so he didn't.
Yeah, we don't know we don't know what that
like,
week of his interactions were.
Yeah, it got Jimmy instantly. I wonder what happened to Mike.
Well, there's a lot of untold stuff of because all we know about Mike is that he was sick for several days.
That's true. Yeah,
or felt sick for several days.
That's true.
He tried to eat, but he couldn't keep it down.
Yeah.
He didn't say, and then I walked by a church and I got really upset at the cross. But maybe he did that. We don't know.
Well, I couldn't leave the house.
The next thing that happened...
it's just crazy how fast it got him. Sorry. I thought that was cool. Yeah.
And that may just be so that there's a nice, easy story. It's just like an easy, quick storytelling mechanic for us to learn a way to combat it.
Yeah.
That sort of thing does happen a lot where the first reveals of what it is that's happening gets drawn out for being dramatic.
Yeah.
And then whenever it's time for us to find a solution to the problem, give it to us really quickly.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So anyways, he passes the cross test and then immediately punches Ben in the jaw to help set the scene to the story for the cops, because they're going to have to call the cops now.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to believe that she's a vampire story.
Right.
So yeah, the punch was good camo.
We cut to Ben arriving back at Ava's just after midnight. He reflects on everything that happened. They called first, I think they first called Maury to come back to the place, and then they call the county sheriff.
McCaslin?
County Sheriff Homer McCaslin.
Yeah.
He gets described as sharper than Deputy Parkins Gillespie.
I'm pretty sure the voice actor did the exact same voice.
Probably.
Yeah, because I was just like, oh, Parkins too.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Both the words that they're given, that they're both given as characters, the spelling of those words in the book.
Oh, like they're slang.
Are both, they're both they're written to be very country. So
yeah.
I could definitely see whenever they get to voicing those characters, just be like, I'll just do the same thing.
Yeah, they didn't get off too well in the beginning. He's like, I didn't like your book.
Right.
Your book sucked.
McCaslin immediately doesn't believe anything that they're telling him. The story that they give McCaslin is that Jimmy went there to check Marjorie's corpse for the encephalitis that was going to be his story for the medical examiner and everything. Ben came along for the ride because he's researching for his novel.
Yeah.
While they were doing the examination, someone broke in to attack them and steal the body, which is why the body's not missing. Yeah. McCaslin immediately knows they're lying.
Because who would do that?
Well, I think it's just because he knows that they're lying. He does truly know that they're lying.
Who would steal a body?
Well, there's 4 bodies missing already.
Yeah, I guess you're right. God, what a weirdo. That would be the weirdest mystery to try and solve. Like, who's stealing these bodies?
What's the...
Did that happen?
The secondary villain in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, I thought
Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, he was stealing fat chicks to make a woman's suit.
Yeah, he wanted to make a person suit so he could be a woman.
Mm-hmm. Good movie. Good book. Even better book. So he knows they're lying.
Yeah, he knows they're lying. He says, I know you're lying. My deputies know you're lying. Hell, probably even old Mo knows you're lying.
But I can't do anything about it because your story is the exact same.
Right. I'd take you down just the same and put you to the inconvenience, except I got a feeling you ain't lying because you did something against the law. So he in the same way that he knows that they're lying, he knows that they didn't do anything illegal.
Yeah.
They're just not giving him the whole damn story. Cut ahead a little bit because there's some dialogue going on here, but I took what I feel like are the important bits. We cut ahead. This is serious business. We've had 4 deaths in the lot, and all 4 bodies are gone. I want to know what's happening. And then they interact a bit more, and then McCaslin looked back at him just as keenly. You're scared shitless, he said. You and this writer, both of you. You look the same way some of those guys in Korea looked when they brought him back from the front lines. So McCaslin's pretty onto what's happening, aside from the fact that it might be vampires.
Yeah.
He knows something is going on. That's why there's 4 bodies missing. Maybe this is going to continue. They're not telling me whatever the craziest part is, and that crazy part has them scared beyond anything. Mm-hmm. So I think McCaslin's going to come back, and I think he's going to be pretty pivotal. I assume he's going to end up being a pretty easy ally. I feel like he's going to see, like, whenever it is that he comes in, he's going to see what's happening and be like, all right, this all adds up. I'm now on their side.
Yeah, no, I can see that too. For whatever reason, I don't think Parkins would do anything. I think they're going to get, now that you mention it, I think they're going to get Parkins.
Is a little slower on the take than we wanted him to be.
Yeah.
I think we like him a lot. And so
I don't know why I like him so much. He's always
he's just like a good homeboy. You know, he's
like
just a guy. Yeah.
Ashing in his pocket.
He's chill. Well, immediately, like, the introduction to him is with his co-deputy, who's like gung-ho and annoying. And he's like, God, you're gung-ho and annoying. So we're immediately like, yeah, we're on your side.
I like you, guy. Yeah, so after their interaction with McCaslin,
they go home.
Yeah,
he falls asleep wondering about if Susan's okay.
Yeah, like a good boyfriend. He's worried about his lady.
Chapter 12, Mark.
They don't have cell phones. They can't just be texting.
It's true.
So you gotta go to bed. You gotta go to bed worrying.
Yeah. It's also like 1:15 after midnight or whatever.
You could text after midnight.
Well, you can. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
But he can't call. Throwing me off.
I was teasing. Okay, chapter 12.
Chapter 12. Mark.
Oh, Will's favorite chapter about his favorite character with the superpower of super genius with the clock stopping powers.
He's so capable.
Yeah.
I get annoyed by Mark. He's too capable. Although this chapter does a better job of
making him likable,
making him a young person, like a child. The previous chapter, where he spends a lot of time thinking about the difference between adults and child's fears, the only way that it tries to, like, it explains it in King's words, which is way more than a child would be capable of thinking, because obviously King's a very smart person. And then there's one line in that explanation where it says, Mark didn't think of it all in this way. He thought of it in the way that a 12-year-old would.
Just
it's like, okay, thanks for like a cheap way of making this in his thoughts. But in this chapter, he does a better job of putting this all in Mark's thoughts and in a way that makes sense for a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah,
so I appreciated this chapter more than the last time we dealt with Mark.
Well, it might have been a week for us, but last Mark was doing anything, I'm pretty sure he got visited by a vampire, and now he's about to go kill a vampire. So he's sneaking up on the Marston house. He saw a vampire, believes in vampires. He's read all the monster
he's on the
manuals.
mission now.
He's like, I gotta do it. The adults are not gonna believe me. And I love how he judges Susan because he sees her. And that's exactly probably how I would do it too. Like if I was on a secret mission to kill some vampire and then I saw some girl doing it way worse than me, I would be judging the shit out of her. not just because she's a girl or anything. Like that has nothing to do with it. Anybody that was doing it, I'd be judging them. Like, what? This guy has no idea what he's doing.
I think that he's already like at the tree line or whatever.
Yeah.
And
he'd been there for hours. He'd been staking the place out. Yeah.
And he sees Susan starting to come up like from a little bit ways further, but kind of or no, not even a little bit ways further because they end up like rotating around the same tree. But coming up behind him, and he like first notices, oh, what is she doing? Oh, that's whatever her...
Susie Norton.
Yeah, that's Susie Norton. Man, she's a lot less quiet than I am. And then they do like... He purposely does like a rotation around the tree as she comes around the same tree so that she doesn't notice him because he doesn't know what he wants to do about her being there yet.
I've done that move in a lot of video games.
And then as she passes him, he sees that she has a stake and he's like, oh, she's here for the same thing.
What's up?
And then she notices, oh, that's just a snow fence picket. Ugh. That's not going to do anything. Immediately back to judging.
She knows what's going on, but she's doing a bad job about handling it.
And then she gets to the bush or whatever that she stops at, stops, and then the car sets off and drives down the driveway and then presumably down to town. But she doesn't run away. So then he respects her a bit more again. She's like, oh, well, she wasn't so scared that she ran off. Good for her.
Reading this as many times as we do, I would never have thought this the initial read. But I have a sneaking suspicion that Straker knew they were there. Like, he just seems... It seems like he knew they were there, and he was leaving to be a catalyst so that they thought they had an in to go get the vampire. Because they know that Straker's not a vampire. And I feel like he would have the insight enough to, like, kind of... I don't know what the right word is,
the only
but to kind of
person
lure them in and trap them. I think he would be smart enough to do that,
I think that the only... Maybe Ben has a suspicion that Straker isn't a vampire. Maybe Matt also has a suspicion.
I mean, it comes out in the day.
Yeah, but in the same way that us not knowing at the time what was going to happen going forward, I felt like maybe he's just able to suppress the pain that he feels from the sun. Because we don't know the rules of the vampires.
No, we haven't.
And vampires not being a real thing... The characters don't know the rules of the vampires either.
That's a good point.
They're just assuming that it goes off of the old rules because the old rules would have come from legends, which would have come from, some version of the truth at least.
Yeah.
And I guess the only thing that I'm saying is the only person that says Straker is not a vampire is Mark in his inner dialogue during this chapter. No one else says Straker's not a vampire.
Yeah, I guess you're
not
right.
even
I just
in the
kind of
info.
assumed he wasn't just because...
You did, yeah. You were.
Yeah,
you were on it right
I was
away. I was ready to just say, yeah, he's a vampire, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
I was ready to just accept anything that happened, which I often am. When it comes to stories.
I mean, yeah, it's a fantasy. Anything could happen.
That's the mindset that I'm always in, and that doesn't always work out.
Well, that's a good mindset, though, because...
But yeah, the only character up until when Mark says it that says, well, Straker's not a vampire, is Mark in his inner dialogue. No one else says anything about it. They just say, we haven't seen Barlow. So if they are vampires, we don't know what the full vampire deal looks like. But Matt just knows what Mike's recently turned form seems to be like. I don't know. I mean, there's so many loose ends to potentially speculate on. God, we really got off track. I don't know where we started.
We learn here that the hand that is placed on Susan's back is Mark's.
Yeah, because now Mark goes up to Susan.
After Straker leaves, Mark ends up going up to Susan and like saying like, "Hey, don't scream. It's just me. I know your dad knows my dad."
Right. Yeah.
and so she tries to be like the cool adult, like, "I can't believe you would believe in vampires." And he's like, "I freaking saw Danny Glick, okay?" And she's like, "Okay, well, are you lying?" And he's like, "No, why would I lie?
I saw it, didn't I?
I literally saw it. Of course I believed it." And then she kind of feels bad for being so skeptical. And so they team up. She gives him the lead, which is kind of awesome.
Right.
I don't know why I thought it was so cool, but I was just like, dang, Susie, all right. She just lets him take over. And she's like, what are we going to do? Like, what's our plan? And he's just like, what do you mean, what are we going to do? We're just going to go up. We're going to break in. And we're going to stab the steak in him.
Right.
Do you know any? We're going to stab my steak
Yeah,
into him.
yours is too and this was one of the parts where, in my opinion, it did a better job of putting it in his words.
Yeah, that was like...
Yours is too... Or what does he say?
Oh,
he
word
says,
that he
yours
had
is
read.
too... And then he went through... his vocabulary trying to find a word in his vocabulary that he had picked up in his time.
Yeah, it was like a word that he
flimsy.
had seen a lot, but he had never really said.
Like he didn't know what the word was going to be, so then he was like, "What word can I use to describe?" And then he went through like all of his learning. He's like, "Flimsy works."
Yeah, flimsy. Yeah, that was cool because then Mark's in charge and he's like, "We're just gonna break in. We're gonna. Do you know any prayers by heart?" And she's like, "Well, I know the Lord's Prayer." He's like, "Cool, I know that one too. We'll say the Lord's Prayer at the same time, and I'm gonna stab my steak through this guy's heart." And we're gonna kill him. Like, that's our plan. Let's go. And then so they go and they sneak up on the house, and I'm pretty sure they
bust a window.
Yeah, they just bust the window open, and he's like, "What? I mean, we gotta
She's
get
like,
in."
Yeah.
Like,
I think he says, "Well,
we're gonna murder somebody."
Yeah.
Like, what's breaking a window?
I think he's like, "Well, we just break the window," and she's like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he says something like, "Well, he can't leave his coffin until sundown, so what does it matter?" And then he breaks the window.
Well, they're literally going to murder something. Like, breaking a window should be low on their priority. Like,
well, I don't think her qualm is the illegality of breaking the window. I think her qualm is that's going to let them know we're coming.
It's going to be loud. Yeah. Okay, I'm dumb. Okay, then, that makes sense.
And then he's like, well, they can't move until sundown, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Which is sort of like the awesomeness of his straightforward plan is that he's got it all figured out.
Yeah, he thought about it, yeah. So
he's like, well, they can't. Straker's gone. I know he's not a vampire, but he's gone, so he's not a problem. They can't move until after sundown, so fuck it. We'll just go straight in. It doesn't matter. Let's start shooting for fun.
Yeah, one thing though that I forgot to say that Mark does bring up, and why another reason that he's like above and beyond as like a super smarty pants is that he says like we have to do this now because he's saying that like vampires like they need permission to go in, but these vampires are just calling people and asking like if they can come over like sometime, you know, like, oh yeah, you can come over. Yeah,
it could be as easy as that.
And that's what he's making it sound like, because he even says like they could have over half the town by now. Like if we don't do something about this, we're done for in the next like couple days. Like we don't have any time to waste. Like that's why it's so important. And I was like, dang, dude, I didn't know it was that crazy. Yeah. But like it's.
So he's got like a super strong. Yeah. He's got his conviction in for sure.
It's like zombie rate.
And then even as right before they're about to jump into the window, Susan like has like her last moment of like fear. Not her last moment of fear because they continue to be afraid, but the last time that she lets it out and she says, "We can still leave." And he looks at her and the description from her or her point of view, because we very quickly change point of views between the two of them in this chapter. It says, and then she saw in his eyes that he didn't look at her with pity, but with the same fear that she had.
Oh yeah, he wanted.
And so he's also like, I want to leave too, but we can't.
We literally, we can't. This is up to us. We're the only ones that know. You know, like we have to. And Mark's probably looking for that too, because he's obsessed with monsters. Like if you spend your life and you know all about it, you'd probably feel some.
When he was initially planning everything, he probably was a little bit amped up.
Yeah, I mean,
I think now that they're at the Marston house, because of the evil presence that it has, they're probably. He's probably over he's like whatever kind of like self-pride he had, he's probably over it at this point.
Oh yeah, like you can build up for a heist, you know, and then
but then the moment comes and you're like, fuck, this is way more real.
Whew, okay, yeah, we actually got to do it. So anyway, they go in and
they're kind of exploring around.
And I love the description too, because it's like it's so quiet in there. It's like deadly silent is what it says. Like it's creepy. It's so like
there's absolutely nothing happening.
And oh yeah, tell them about this book.
Yeah, they're exploring around. They find a book, which it's like an old book that's written in Latin. Mark asks if Susan knows any Latin. She says, well, you know, it took a little bit in school, and she tries to read it, but she can't put it together.
Yeah.
Mark flips to a random page, and what's described is some sort of like torture scene, but
it seemed like it. Yeah,
it's got to be like a ritual. It's not literally just be like,
for sure.
Look at this cool torture.
Somebody, yeah.
It's some sort of ritual being described, and he says that, but he gets grossed out and puts it down because the binding material felt familiar. which means it's human skin.
Oh yeah, dude.
So
I don't know why my brain jumped straight to human skin, but the second
it has to be.
I know.
And
I don't know why
it
has to be, but in my head it's like, oh, there's nothing else it could be. It's a freaking book made out of human skin with blood devil rituals in it.
The clue in that Stephen King gives is definitely pretty obvious that it's human skin. Like you were absolutely right by immediately thinking so.
I am so glad you said it was human skin too, and we were going over notes too, because I was like, man, it just felt like it had to be that.
And it being like a book of rituals, it's like, if not the Necronomicon, it's like a Necronomicon-esque book.
And that's like Necronomicon is just like a evil sorcerer's book, or what?
More or less, yeah.
Like a necromancer, like a undead sorcerer kind of, or what is it specific to that, or
it's
is
like
it just
a book
sorcery, or
it takes on
sorcery?
different attributes in different stories.
Okay,
but that's pretty much what it is. Yeah,
they probably used that book to perform the ritual where they sacrificed Ralphie or whatever his name is.
Right. Yeah,
not Ralphie. You know what I'm saying?
We assume it was Ralphie.
Yeah. So
Anyway, they continue to move around. I think that them finding the Necronomicon and describing it might matter later on, so it's worth mentioning.
Definitely, and it was just that was. I mean, that's like basically all that's there. Like, there's nothing in
that's the only thing that it points out. And then they go into the kitchen because they're like following the bad scent and the heaviness of the evil presence as it gets worse. Because they know what they're going to do is go find the source.
That would suck to have to follow the evil presence.
Right.
Go where it feels more evil, and that's where you gotta go do stuff.
They track it down to the kitchen and determine that it's coming from. They know it's probably. Mark assumed that it was from the basement, and the door to the basement is in the kitchen. Yeah. So his assumption was right, because that's where the evil presence they kind of determined by following it is coming from. Right as they're about to enter it, Straker shows up and knocks Mark out. Yeah.
Straker's crazy, dude. Straker's I hate that I like him. You know what I mean? Like, he's a perfect bad guy.
So Mark ends up coming to being carried up the stairs to the second floor by Straker. Straker takes him to the room where Hubert Marston hung himself and tells him that he's going to tie him up now and leave him there for Barlow to come turn him after turning Susan.
This is where Mark uses his superpower of clock stopping and thinks at 1,000,000 beats per second and deduces 3 different ways he could escape,
like 3 paths that he can choose.
Yeah, 3. It's like did you ever see Next or whatever, that Nicolas Cage movie where he can see 3 minutes into the future? Oh, because there's this one scene where he's
sounds awful.
Oh yeah, it was weird. There's this one scene where he's standing somewhere, and then it sends 50 different Nicolas Cages out because he tests all these different scenarios. That's basically what Mark's doing, because he's like, I could jump out this window, but there's probably a bunch of farm tools at the bottom where I would die and impale myself, or I would just crash into the window and
not break through.
And Straker would catch me and beat me up, or I could let him tie me up and just wait, or I read a book about Houdini. I could pretend to be Houdini. Yeah. So that's what he goes with. He goes with the Houdini plan.
Yeah, he decides that that's that's the best course of action.
So Straker ties him up, and the idea is that he's going to hold his breath
and flex his muscles as
hard as he can. His little kid muscles, you know how bulging little kids are. So he's going to flex his bulging biceps, and that way, when he is tied up, he can relax and ideally get just a little bit,
just enough room to start working.
And then once you start wiggling, you build up sweat and you can wiggle your way out. Which determination and being a little kid, I'm sure he's a lot more double jointed than he's much more likely to get out than I am. So it's a great plan. It's a great plan.
And so that's what he goes with.
Yeah,
and it works. And it works in sort of the most obnoxious way, where at first he lays down and because he remembers reading the book that he has to be able to focus and move with the most precise and unwavering focus, because if you start to freak yourself out, then you're going to ruin everything.
Right.
And while he focuses, he reaches some sort of Zen state where he sees himself projected on the wall going through all of the steps, and then he just follows the steps that he saw the projection go through.
Mark is the real hero of this story. He's gonna be the one that he's Jesus come again.
He is Jesus.
No rope can hold me back.
Do you think... Okay, so if he is the boy from the prologue, like I think he is...
Oh, you are so right about that.
The more we read about him, the more it seems that way.
You gotta be.
But do you think whenever he was making his confession to the priest, he was like, oh, and there was this one time that I did this really dope thing where I saw myself on the wall? Like, did he brag about it?
Oh, for sure, because he commits a sin in like 2 seconds. If you wanna tell them what he does.
So like we said, it works, and then he hears Straker coming up to get him, or someone coming up to get him. So and
there's nothing in this room, so he's like scrambling.
He finds
for a
like
weapon.
a bedpost. It's like an iron bar or some sort of metal from like an old bed frame, and he hides behind the door. And then as the door opens, he comes around and bashes Straker in the head.
Using his clock-stopping powers again, because
again, he sees like
time
a third.
Slows down.
It describes it as like when he saw the quarter moon of Straker's head come past the door. He held his breath or something like that, and was able to. And it says, and then it seemed like time slowed down, so that he could take the right amount of aim.
Yeah, he sacrificed some strength for better aim,
I know,
and like
oh my God.
it seemed like
it's too much.
It said Straker was.
He's too capable.
He said Straker was like stunned for a second, but to Mark it felt like minutes, where he could perfectly plant this thing on his head. Anyway, he ends up hitting Straker. Straker's like, oh, what the hell? And then he hits him again, and he starts to bleed out. And I'm pretty sure Mark, at that point, escapes,
I think he hits him more than once.
Okay. I thought it was just twice.
And then, as he's like standing over Straker's corpse, he's like, all right, he's dead. Good.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So every time I listened to it, I felt like that part happened so quickly that I thought he just kind of left him assuming he died, but I thought he just hit him twice, But
he does realize that he's running out of time, and he does leave very quickly because he runs back down to the kitchen. He knows he's only got like minutes left.
Well, actually, he's just got to get out. You're right. Never mind. Because it's almost night.
Realizing that he's run out of so much time, and he's only got like a couple of minutes left. He knows that he's out of time, but he can't not do anything for Susan, so he runs to the kitchen. And he shouts down to Susan. He says, Susan, run. And Susan says, Mark, is that you? I can't move. Blah, blah, blah. Or I can't see. It's dark.
Oh, perfect. And then Mark's literally the quote. I can't see. It's dark. Nice.
And Mark starts to go down the steps, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
He starts to take a step down the step. And then it's like at that moment that like here's like an explosion, which I think we can assume is Barlow's casket opening up.
Yeah.
And then there's like a laughter. And Susan screams. And then there's nothing.
Yeah, Barlow must be like the best vampire ever, because he like started to like almost seduct Ben, or not Ben, sorry, started to
after he
pull
gets...
Mark down by sounding like his dad. Like, how does he even know Mr. Petrie? Like, he just like connects to that wavelength of him or something, And he's
maybe so.
Father, And
the way I assumed was that maybe it's not that he sounds like Mark's dad, but he's enchanting enough that Mark's brain thinks it sounds like his dad.
Yeah, maybe. That.
I mean, it could obviously go either way, and it'll never tell us.
That sounds kind of. That's like what I was trying to verbalize. So, like, you said it better than I could have. That was what. I think that's exactly what it is.
I mean, in any case, we know it's magic. So.
But Mark somehow fights it and he runs off. And
he
sorry,
shakes
Susan,
it off.
but it's too late for her and. That's okay, Mark. Yeah. You're okay.
Right. Mark shouted down, I know your name. It's Barlow. And then he just bolts for the door.
Wonder if that matters.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to matter.
It seems like it did. Like, it seemed like it helped break the spell.
Because if Mark was just... I feel like Mark thinks it matters. Because he wouldn't have said it, right?
Right. That's why I think it must be
as smart as he is.
Yeah, I mean, he can stop time, so...
Yeah, every movie makes us correct, so we have to assume that this matters.
I would think that this is important. Just
he
like
knows
him
all the right moves.
Just like him picking up and reading the freaking monster manual, like the Necronomicon. Like I think this Mark chapter is super important, and it's dropping a bunch of... Yeah, and
there might be a lot more that we missed that's going to pop up later.
I bet we did.
But he runs all the way home and then finds his parents looking for him. His dad's going to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, Dad was not happy about that.
After the presumably Mark gets his beating from Dad and then goes to sleep. In the night, Susan visits Mark. Mark ends up warding her away, and then decides that he remembers whenever he first meets up with Susan. Susan says, "Oh, there's a couple of men in town who think the same thing," and kind of brings him up to speed on their side of the story. Mark thinks.
So he knows that there's other people.
He knows that there's other people. He can't.
That know that something's going on. That
Susan didn't say who it was, and he thinks one of them must have been Mears, the writer that Susan was dating.
Yeah, her boyfriend.
So he says, I'm going to have to go talk to him now because now I've got to team up with somebody else. We got to do something if Susan hasn't already gotten him.
Which totally seems like she would. I don't even think I'd waste time with Mark if I was Susan the vampire.
Well, Mark knows that Susan turned.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, if I was Susan the vampire, I don't think I'd go for Mark. I think I'd go for...
I would go for Mark to tie up a loose end. Because...
He's just a little kid.
But he knows things.
But he's a kid.
He knows that Danny Glick's a vampire. Susan, nobody knows...
No, I mean, you're right, but... Sorry, keep going. He knows Danny Glick?
He knows Danny Glick's a vampire, and he knows Susan's a vampire.
Yeah.
So if he goes and tells people, then... I mean, the more knowledge that everybody on the fighting side... has, the better equipped they are. So
you're right, and that makes more sense to tie up the loose end. It's just, to me, I guess I was thinking it'd be so easy.
I also don't think that it was Susan.
It'd be so easy to get bitten.
Yeah, it would.
But maybe maybe she hadn't turned yet. Maybe it was Barlow using his power because he didn't see her, did he? Or
he saw her.
Oh, okay.
And she's got all the vampire attributes.
No, you're right. It said she was wearing the same clothes. You're
also,
right.
he's on the second floor. And so she's flying in the same way that cool. Danny was. Well, I guess they weren't like literally flying, but they were able to be on the side of the house with that much effort.
Yeah, I would assume flight, but they didn't explicitly say that.
Yeah.
That was.
So that's the end of that. We know that Susan's gone, which made me really sad.
That is sad. He took a good one out, like a really good character.
I was like totally in love with Susan, and now she's a vampire, which would also be fine with me. I would totally let Susan turn me into a vampire.
Dude, not these
and
vampires.
Then we would just be
I am not into
super
these.
Awesome vampire couple. Dude, it'd be badass.
Y'all would probably get everybody, too. Like, oh, man, dude. Austin would be overrun with vampires. It'd be so easy, dude. You just start on 6.
I'd get like 20 people in one night. That's how good of a vampire I'd be. I would without even trying.
You'd be so fat. You'd be the fattest vampire. Like, I got so much blood.
Just bloated.
Bloated.
Like a...
that guy. Too much salt in his blood. I'm bloated.
Chapter 13.
Father Callahan.
Father Callahan visits Matt Burke in the hospital. Matt drops everything on him.
And Father Callahan is so freaking down to believe it.
As he says...
Halfway, because he seems like he's dying too. So he's like, dying people. Or people in the hospital will say anything.
Well, that's like his initial thought.
Yeah.
But then as he tells Matt, he says, well, you don't fit any of my typical ideas of people in the hospital. Right. You seem pretty fucking lucid and cool. But then he even says, whenever Matt says, well, you're awful conversational about all this sort of stuff. You're not like shutting me down immediately. He says, well, my business is literally the supernatural. So
that he's like the coolest. Like, is he a priest? Our father's priest?
He's a priest. Yeah. Okay. He's a Catholic priest.
Yeah. Okay. I always got confused what you called him. Like, we called ours father, and I didn't know if he was a priest or if he was like a bishop or what they are.
Episcopalian?
Yeah. What's a bishop?
A bishop is oversees a larger area. So it's like there's like a hierarchy in the Catholic Church, right?
So he's the priest.
It's like popes on top, and then you've got cardinals after him, and then you've got archbishops that see.
Archbishop.
Like everything gets like broken. There's like layers.
Oh god.
You know, there's like a chain of command almost.
That's disgusting.
And everybody has like a smaller and smaller like thing that they oversee for the sake of organization.
Dude, how old are we? We have like fucking.
I'm not too far from being 28.
No, I mean, just like, still using fucking kings in that hierarchy. What a dumb, like, the Vatican's
well, it works.
I guess,
that's how the military works.
I guess, yeah. We don't have, like, there's not, like, one person in charge, right? Like, the president.
Of what?
The military?
Well, the president is the commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
And then right underneath him is the...
I guess you're right. I guess you have to have the hierarchy.
Everything has to funnel up a little bit.
Yeah. And there's always somebody at the top. It's just... I don't know. I guess when I think churches, I just think like corruption. I don't know why. Because this is totally making them cool. Like in this one, it makes me want to go to a church and listen to some of their stuff. Like when they were saying the Lord's Prayer, I was like, dude, that would be good to have in my back pocket. I don't know why, but it just seems like it would come in handy. Like I only know the one that you say when you eat communion, I think. The Our Father. Do we say that for communion?
Maybe, I think
we did.
I was Baptist. We didn't.
You knew all of them then. You knew all the prayer. I remember going to Baptist class with Kenneth. It was like this
Awanas?
church, yeah, and they gave me candy for memorizing.
The whole thing of Awanas was just to sit there and memorize scripture.
Yeah,
that was the whole
thing. They give you candy for it. They were brainwashing brainwashing kids with candy to get us to memorize.
That's how you get any kid to do anything.
Oh, dude, and it was flushed the next day. It didn't stay in the brain. It didn't stay in my brain for very long. I mean, I wasn't coming back though after.
I don't remember any of it at this point, but it's also been, how did I say I was about to be 28, right? So it's been, 15 years since I did any of that, at the least.
It always does sound, it always sounds cool when, like, they use a prayer, though, to fight something like in Constantine, or, like, in this when, like, they curse them away, or...
There's always something romantic about old power like that.
Yeah.
Which is a really good segue to what this entire conversation between Callahan and Matt is so Matt, drops everything on him. Callahan is way more receptive to it than everybody thought he would be. Matt mentions it. Callahan says, well, yeah, that's like literally my whole job is dealing with things that are, beyond belief. And then he tells a story. He tells Matt a story about a friend of his that he's another priest over in England. He's got a parish in Cornwall, specifically, along the Tin Coast.
I had no idea where that was. I'm so glad you said that. Seriously, I was just like, I literally put them just like in someplace in Mexico. I don't know why. No. Immediately. Because they were in Mexico earlier, I think.
Cornwall, Mexico?
Yeah, they make corn. There's a wall of corn, dude.
Yeah, it's an English word.
An English word? Yeah, you're right. I'm dumb.
I just know that Cornwall's in England because I've heard it for other things.
Oh, okay.
But then also the Tin Coast is a World Heritage Site. There's mining that happened there that literally changed the world.
Oh, I should know that.
It's a World Heritage Site. But that's where he's got a parish. Mm-hmm. And his name is Father Raymond Bissonnet. In his parish, the story, we won't tell the whole story, but it's about how there was an incubus in his parish and how it killed a girl. And how he saw the incubus one day at a graveyard, but he didn't know it was an incubus. He didn't know it was the guy. He took pictures of him. And then whenever he showed it to people in town, like, hey, check out this picture I got of the graveyard. Like, do you think it's really good? Because his hobby was like Polaroids or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the people were like, that's the dude that killed the girl. Like, don't you know that blah, blah, blah. And then also in time, after showing everybody, he faded from the picture.
That's so cool, man. Yeah. Dude, that was just like the story, the way they brought that in. He's like, that's why he was so quick to believe, obviously, because he had that buddy that did it. But it was just like, dude, and then they even made vampires seem so much more hardcore because it was like,
this is like a different kind of vampire.
Yeah, they were like, we had to cut that chick's head off, stuff her mouth with fucking garlic, and then like burn her corpse. Like they did so much. They went through like all the old pagan rituals. Literally, I was like, why is it, oh my god. I was like, they did so much, and like it was a really cool scene like that.
So Callahan totally believes that story. And so when Matt tells the story of vampires, it's like, well, I already believe the story about this version of a vampire.
And he's dying for a fight for
a
cause,
and as we know, he's ready to fight the good, old evil and blah blah. And then further on in the conversation, they continue to talk about how Father Callahan believes in good and evil, not just in like God versus Satan or God versus anything, but in actual good versus evil and in the old style of good and evil. Mm-hmm. And how the Catholic Church is changing its definition and approach to good and evil because it wants to be modern and not be left behind. So the people are just like, oh, you're worried about old things that don't exist. What's wrong with you? So, as an organization, they're trying to be modernized, which makes sense for any organization. Mm-hmm. But Father Callahan doesn't like it. He thinks, he says, I think it's an abomination. It's the Catholic Church's way of saying that God isn't dead, only a little senile. He's got great reverence for the old power that Matt is asking him to start moving with the holy water in the host.
Yeah, man.
This conversation, I'm sorry.
No, I was just thinking out loud. Really, I really just enjoyed the scene going.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good dialogue in this chapter, but as far as talking about the beats of the story, there's not really a whole lot to say.
No, it's just a lot. It's just it's cool.
There's a lot of good philosophy and thoughts on theology and different things that happen in this chapter. It was I really liked it. But so they resolve that they both agree that what's happening. Matt obviously believes it because he saw a vampire. Mm-hmm. Father Callahan says, well, I will believe that you believe this is real. I believe my friend believes it's real. So I will go on with you and we'll see what is this real and do what we can about it.
Everybody's very willing to take steps to rule it out. Like, no one's ready to just say, no, I'm not going to deal with this. They're like, well, yeah, we can. I'll work with you to prove that it's not real. I don't believe it.
For the sake of a story
but,
that works, we're giving characters that are willing. You know?
No, I mean, we're going after characters that are willing too. We didn't necessarily know that Father Callahan was, but we knew that Jimmy Cody was. We knew he was willing. So we didn't know that this one would go over so well, but thankfully.
Father Callahan agrees to whatever it is that Matt asks him to do. Because Callahan says, what is it that you want me to do? And the book explicitly says, Matt tells him. So we're in the dark of what it is that Matt is thinking he needs Father Callahan to do for the good of the party. On the condition that everybody involved goes to Straker's shop and confronts him with everything that they're thinking, everything that they plan to do, so that they can see the way that he reacts to further improve their case or to give them a better idea of what's going on, or just so Straker can laugh in their face and tell them that they're wrong and, dispel everything.
Yeah, which, I mean, honestly, like, they're never going to do that, but that's very fair to write that in because somebody would, like, it.
And the same way that Susan was going to.
Exactly, yeah. In my mind, like, I'm already so accepting of there being a vampire, I don't think there'd be any pushback.
Right.
Especially
since we outright know that.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But this is, like, reiterating that, like, no, there's pushback. People are still skeptical. Like, it's not,
they have to be.
They have to be. And I already had forgotten real situation. Exactly. I forgot that not everybody, even as willing to believe it all as he is, he's still showing skepticism right there, which is...
Yeah, Matt agrees to it on the condition that Jimmy and Ben also agree to it.
Yeah.
So Callahan starts walking back to his church after being done talking with Matt. He's all amped up about it. He's actually really excited about it because this is the evil that he's been, sort of subconsciously dying to fight. Mm-hmm. When he gets back to the church, he can't really sit still. He goes to sit on the back porch. As he's sitting on the back porch, he's thinking about a bunch of different things, and it was actually a little hard for me to follow, so much that I didn't bother really reading into it. But he thinks he hears something fly overhead. He is thinking about other things. And what confused me about it is that he seems to be recalling passages from books that he's read in the past, because we learned that he's a fairly well-read man and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. There's a saying that gets read a couple of times where he says, when the kudzu gets your crops,
the night
you
the
sleep
kudzu
like
gets your fields, you sleep like the dead.
Yeah, that must be a passage from some book that is not given to us. So there's just a bunch of referencing happening here.
Something flapped overhead, and Callahan looked up, startled out of his confused reverie. A bird? A bat?
Right.
Vampire?
I feel like that's just misleading stuff to get us scared.
Probably.
Because we know they're vampires, and now we're thinking, what are their powers?
Oh, yeah, because they turn into bats, for sure. I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. You're probably right. It probably doesn't mean anything. It's just like...
I don't know that any of it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. It's just so much... the whatever symbolism and referencing it is that's happening in that passage is dense and deep enough without any clues given that I did not want to spend the time researching it. I guess is what I meant to say. Yeah, ultimately what happens is while he's out there reflecting on all the stuff that he's reflecting on and kind of just observing the night, he comes down from the high and realizes that he's actually freaked the fuck out.
Yeah.
I think it says that the terror that he felt was not for his life or something like that, but for his immortal soul. And what I take that to mean is that he comes down from the high and realizes, if all of this is true, and even if we succeed, but I'm a casualty, I don't just die. I become a vampire and I don't get to go to heaven, which is a thing that he believes in.
Oh, yeah. And
so it's like suddenly the weight hits him. He's like, "Fuck, this is real as shit."
And even if it was like going off to war, if he died, he'd go to heaven, But
right, like he gets the ultimate end goal of any person who believes in some form of Christianity is that you get to heaven. So like, there's always some consolation in what might happen to you, but not in this.
Yeah, this is the one time where they could take that away from him. Like. Well, I mean, I guess he could go to hell, but they're taking it all away from him and making him have this living hell of being a vampire.
Exactly.
Which
is also sort of, now that you say that, that's sort of touched on very briefly in the interaction between Mark and Vampire Suze, where as she's fading away, he says that he saw, or at least thought he saw, like some pained look in her face or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So for like half a second, he at the very least imagines that he sees her being like in pain and like, I don't want this and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, and that could just be imagery for the sake of making it dramatic, but on the writer's part, or it, can be exactly what you talked about, where it's a living hell, and to illustrate the point that being a vampire is not so awesome.
Yeah, it's
especially
that's the coolest part, is that it's illustrating that being a vampire is not necessarily
the most
ideal.
awesome
yeah, and basically every other story I've ever
there's
read,
a lot of romanticized ideas of being a vampire.
I would want to be one, and in this, it's just like I really don't.
In this telling of it, they're very kind of like the original idea of a vampire. They're very primal and evil, trapped beings, so it makes sense.
But yeah, that was the end of our reading, and jeez, it's
end of part 2. Yeah,
it's so good, dude. And
on into part 3.
Part 3, I want to read it all.
What we suspected happening, it did not happen. We thought, or at least I said, and then I said that what I think is going to happen is all the climax is going to happen, and then part 3 was going to be back to the prologue, or where the prologue left off. Now we're back into the town for whatever happens after that. That's obviously not what happened. No. We're going to go into part 3, and this is where the huge, climax of the initial fight or whatever.
And you were saying this earlier when we were going over it, but I think it'd be kind of funny if the epilogue was where the prologue left off. And
it's definitely starting to seem like that's the structure of this book.
When you said that, dude, that was the funniest thing ever. I was like, that is so gonna be what happens. And you just said you don't want it to happen.
I know. It annoys me a little bit that if the whole story is part 1, 2, and 3, then it should just be left at that.
Right? Like he added an extra or something.
Yeah, if like right before he published it, he decided, I can do this prologue and epilogue. Just make that part of the goddamn story.
Just do it the first time, yeah. So how far are we reading, Will?
Let's go to... So what we'll do is we'll just finish the book. We're going to read all of part 3, which is chapters 14 and 15, and then we're going to read the epilogue. And just finish it up.
Yeah, and we'll talk about just everything, the whole book. This is just a really good King novel in general. I think
is really good.
Yeah, it's good. So anyway, check us out on Twitter and Instagram at ears_stamps. We don't have Facebook, do we?
No, we don't.
We should do that probably.
That is not a bad idea. I'll think about it.
All right.
I just hate Facebook so much.
We're thinking about Facebook. You can email us, dogearsandtimestamps @gmail.com. Hey, anything else? Any news?
Any news? Just review us.
Yeah, leave us a
talk
review.
To us.
Let us know what you think.
Tell your friends about us. I don't know, all that sort of stuff. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section below.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, do anything. Just interact.
All that typical shit. Whatever. I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schapper.
This is Dog Ears and Timestamps.